Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 64 of the Whitey and Wills Sports Show. Today is Sunday, February 5th, and here's the deal. There was a chance that we'd have a guest tonight, and there's still a chance that we do. So it's possible that in the middle of this episode, somebody might log into our little Zoom call here, and we will conduct an interview. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And
it won't be a login. They will barge in.
They will barge in.
They'll come in bigger than life.
If that happens, then we'll drop what we're doing and have a conversation. But we figured we'd go ahead and get started because there's plenty of basketball to talk about. Girls regional assignments came out. Pairings came out this week, and so we've got a lot to talk about there.
I'm trying to adjust my camera, so you can see I am wearing Indiana hoodie tonight.
There's some college basketball that Mike wants to talk about, and notice I said Mike wants to talk about. Some of us are just going to grin and bear it, and some other interesting boys and girls games from around the area took place this week. There's still regular season basketball left to talk about, and so we've got plenty there. So we'll get started with that, and if we have to drop it for a while and pick it back up, we'll be happy to do so. But given that we are a highly untechnical recording process here, I'm not going to try to do any splicing or anything. We'll take it as it comes. And of course, we don't have a big plan here. I think we'll save the regional stuff for last. I think we'll make people on for that. But
let's just start with boys then.
Yeah, it was the St. Anthony T-Town week. That's a big boys matchup every year. Even though they run into each other at Thanksgiving, sometimes they run into each other at Christmas. Sometimes it doesn't take away from the pageantry, from the intrigue of that February matchup that they have every year. And certainly a lot of people agreed because it was a
big crowd.
Packed house at J.H. Griffin.
There was still room, but it was big. This big crowd wasn't. Now that they can regulate the heat, wasn't real hot.
Yeah, I was still a little warm. See here where we sit to broadcast, and I got to do that one with Greg Friday night. Where we sit, it's where the visiting fans sit, and of course they all kind of cram into that one quarter of the gym
section and a half.
Yeah, so we kind of got to be up close and personal with some folks in there. I was a little concerned whether people were going to like sit down or not. As the game was getting ready to start, I thought maybe we were going to be broadcasting that one on our feet the entire time, but they did, and it was T-Town won that game by 11, and it was closer than that for most of the time. And I know you've got some thoughts on it as far as how the game went down. It was a low scoring game. It was 49-38 was the final. And it was, it was just I don't know if it was deliberate or not. Would you consider it a deliberately paced game, or would you consider it a well-defended game where the shots were just at a premium?
Cody set the pace of the game. They had just on Tuesday, T-Town ran Robinson out of the gym, and Robinson ran Newton out of the gym in the second half. Newton played as good a half of basketball as they can possibly play. And then T-Town just put on a clinic second half and looked extremely good. And I was texting with some friends of mine from T-Town, and we all were unanimously in agreement. We love the tempo. That's the tempo I coach, Whitey. I like that tempo. I mean, it takes margin for error. It gives you more room to make screw-ups as a coach, more possession. And Cody came out and said, we're going to play close to the vest. They spread them out. They held the ball. I don't think St. Anthony is quicker starting five versus starting five. It's about a wash. I don't know. They may be quicker because, St. Anthony doesn't have a true center. So Caleb Seamer, and Caleb's not slow, but I mean, there may have been a edge there, but St. Anthony was fine with 45-second possessions. They really were.
Their first possession of the game lasted longer than that, and they got a
Yeah,
bucket out of it. And it kind
yeah.
of that's just sort of
So I think that dictated. I mean, they dictated the tempo of the game for a half, and it was what, 18-14 at the half, 18-16?
it was. Yeah, it
St.
was.
Anthony led, I thought.
Yeah, I got it right here. It
I
was
was tweeting scores, so I should be able to find that.
23-19 at halftime.
23-19 at the half. And
no, wait a minute. No, you're right. 18-16. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong numbers. 18-16. That's right, because it was, yeah.
Yeah, 18-16 at the half. And it was just both teams guarded. Okay, fine, did a good job defensively. I mean, St. Anthony was holding the ball really for the most part, and T-Town was guarding them hard. So it's one of those things. But I felt like in the second half, the tempo changed a little bit, noticeably. I mean, T-Town scored 31 points in the second half, and they scored 18 or 16 in the first half. So they doubled their output.
Yeah, I mean, they scored 16 in the third quarter, right after.
Yeah, so they got the tempo more to their liking, and I would have liked to have not. I mean, I would have not let them set the tempo.
Sure. Okay,
you may give up some easy buckets trying to do things, but if that's what they're trying to do to give themselves, in their opinion, in their eyes, their best chance to win, and obviously they felt that way because that's what they executed for a half. No, I'm not gonna, because I don't want it to come down to a one possession game, because who knows who's going to throw in a bucket on either end of the floor. So you don't want that. So I guess I would have liked to have seen. Yeah, you might give up some early buckets, but hey, we're not having this. No, this isn't going to happen.
So tell me then, you say, don't let them do that. How do you, what's the game plan then? How do you force the team out of that then? Give me some specifics here.
You pressure the bejesus out of them. You trap. In essence, you do a lot of trapping.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it out of the man. You can do a lot of man trapping. I mean, every time they inbound the ball, you're trapping them in the backcourt. And T-Town runs a nice 1-2-2, three-quarter court trap as well. Throw everything at them, because if St. Anthony is wanting to hold the ball and some of their players are coming across half court now in transition, they're at the other end of the floor. Cody can't go and make them spin around and come back out. They're going to go attack. And when St. Anthony gets running up and down against good teams, sometimes they throw it into the third row of the bleachers. So I wouldn't have let them do that. And then St. Anthony came out and played their 1-2-2 against T-Town. And really, I don't think that was to speed T-Town up. You do those things for two reasons. It was to slow them down, and they did. T-Town couldn't get in a good rhythm in that first half offensively either. And I just, I was not afraid to give up a 4-0 or 6-0 run, because I felt my team could score 10 points in a minute.
Yeah.
If we got the tempo we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what then they go to Robinson and hang 73 points on the board.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't early. It seemed like a lot of that came late. Sounded like a lot of that came from about the middle of third quarter on, to be honest.
Yeah, I haven't seen a box score from that one. I'd be interested.
I was seeing quarter by quarters, and I think T-Town scored like 28 points in the fourth quarter, something. It was maybe a 15-point game going into the fourth quarter. I don't remember exactly, but tempo. I text 3 prominent T-Town basketball alum that exact text during the middle of that, early in that game. Do not let St. Anthony set the tempo.
Now, one thing that an interesting thing that Chat Reader said when he was talking to us after the game on the radio was that he told James Nieberge at halftime, he's like, I gotta get something more out of you. Like I gotta have more from you. He scored 4 points in the first half and ended up with 19, most points in the
So he
game.
ended up with 19, and you're watching the game, I'm watching the game. How many of those 19 points came in initial or secondary transition?
Yeah,
I bet 8. I bet at least 8.
well, and he's a kid who could, I mean, he can get to the rim, okay?
He's an up and down. He needs to be going up and down the floor. He's
Yeah,
athletic. His
yeah.
specialty is going to the basket. He
He
did hit
did.
a nice 3, which
He
I like
did.
to see him shoot.
He hit a 3, and I thought then after he hit that one, there were a couple other times where I thought maybe he had opportunities, and I guess it's just not what it's not his
I don't feel like
it's not what
he'll
he wants
shoot
to.
it, but it's not his first thought process. He
Mhm.
wants to get you in the air, but again, he's attacking. He's attacking. He's attacking. That's
Yeah.
his game.
Yep.
And that first half was so slow. Why did there really weren't opportunities to attack? And St. Anthony was packed in defensively, taking away those opportunities.
But I think that speaks to something for T-Town as far as the strength is that, they got 5 from Brendan Nieberge that game. And he couldn't buy it. He had open looks on his threes and he just couldn't get anything to go down.
He's had games like that where he struggles and then he'll turn around and hit 6 or 7,
Yeah. I mean, he scored 28 the game
before. Against Newton.
Yeah.
About as good a ball game as I've ever seen him play because it wasn't just I'm hitting wide open threes against you. He scored in a lot of fashions. And it's good to see that Brendan Nieberge because I think when he hits a couple threes, he then does more things offensively. And then I think when that three's not falling sometimes, he sometimes just isn't too confident in the rest of his game.
And they got 9 from Joey Nieberge, but I thought he played a really nice all-around game.
T-Town won the game at the free throw line. They made their free throw.
They hit 17 of 21 in the game, and most of that was in the second half, particularly in the fourth.
Joey Nieberge, I don't think missed a free throw, did he?
I am looking now. Joey Nieberge, he was 5 of 7. He was 5.
He did miss 2. Okay.
But one of those was in the first quarter too.
Okay.
He hit 3 of 4 in the fourth quarter, and as a team, again, they made a bunch in the fourth quarter. I don't have my quarter by quarter sheet that I usually keep, for the broadcast, but I know that they shot a bunch. I think it might have been 11 to 13, something like that in the fourth quarter. So
yeah, and they've had games where they've struggled at the line, so that's good to see that they're doing that down the stretch. I thought defensively both teams played really well. I sat in front of a St. Anthony player today in Mass, and after Mass, I said, whose defense is better, T-Town's or Effingham's? And he thought a minute, and he says, T-Town.
Yeah.
He thought T-Town defensively was better. And he's a kid that gets guarded. So, it's not like the kid at the end of the bench who gets water during timeouts. I mean, he's on the floor.
Well, so, and you talk about
because I know Altamont, Johnny hangs his hat on it, but again, where did Johnny learn it from? Kenny Crawford.
When you said did you ask him T-Town or Altamont or T-Town or Effingham? Because you said Effingham. Did you mean Altamont? Is that what you were?
Altamont. I'm sorry.
Okay, I got confused for a second there. Gotcha. Speaking of people who get guarded, that was a low scoring output for Brock Fearday. He only scored 3 points in that game. But they got 19 out of Colin Westendorf, and you've been on the Colin Westendorf train for a while. I think.
Yeah, I like it. Oh, wait a minute, time out.
Okay.
Our guest is having troubles connecting.
Okay.
They have to have the Zoom app on their device, correct?
If they're on if they're
iPad. They're
if
on an iPad.
yes, then he would need to have an app. Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right. He was texting me. He said he's fighting his damn iPad.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
and that's. Do we have a 5-second delay tonight?
We're
we're cable. We're okay. We're cable.
We are unencumbered by the rules of the
Okay. Good.
FCC, so I think we'll be fine. Yeah, so we can kind of, while he's figuring that out, we can sort of wrap this up.
Well, there's no guarantee they'll figure it out either. So we
if he's on a web browser on his computer, then he could probably just go to Zoom and put in my meeting ID. Anyway, we'll see if we can get that straightened out.
right.
Like you said, Westendorf got 19, but that was the only.
He shot it well. I thought he shot it well, especially early.
Made some 3-pointers, but he'll take it to the rim as well.
There was one time in the game that, because I was down on the west end of the gym, and he fouled Derek Gaddis got fouled pretty hard.
Okay. Yeah.
They're down in the heat, and Colin grabs him by the hand, helps him up. Most of those kids get along, and you could see during the game they did. Some of them don't. I'm not going to lie. Some of them don't give a rat's ass about each other, but most of them get along. And watching him on the floor, I like him. I like the fact that you've got him, Faraday, and Schmidt all back next year. And you got some good young kids coming. I don't know if there's anybody ready to help next year. Possibly the Lauritsen kid who's a freshman. I kind of like him.
So, I was telling you before we started recording that I actually spent some time at the Neoga Fresh Soft Tournament on Saturday, keeping a book, right. And I got to see St. Anthony and T-Town play each other there. And I saw some things I liked from the Lauritsen kid. Brady Hatton played in that game too, and he's an athlete that needs a lot of polish.
He got to get bigger.
Yeah. There's certainly some physical tools there. I think for the Hatton kid, I think staying healthy is also,
he's been hurt a couple times.
It's been a struggle for him for the baseball and for the basketball, being able to consistently participate and grow, right? Like that's the only way you're going to get better.
And I got there early enough to see that JV game. The Brent kid, I thought played pretty well. Another freshman for St. Anthony.
Yeah.
He does some things. They've got some people they've got parts.
I do. And I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but I'm like 90% sure that it's a calculated move that on the night that the St. Anthony is coming into J.H. Griffin for a game, that they choose that night to have the junior high kids come out and show everybody that T-Town's got like 40 kids in its junior high program, just waiting to get up there to the next level. And not to mention those same, I know that there'll be some battles for the St. Michael's kids, who goes.
And both of those St. Michael coaches are Wooden Shoe alum players.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you mentioned the junior high oddity, Doug Smith got beat in the first round of the state tournament yesterday. That doesn't happen very often.
No, it's I joke about it all the time when Greg brings it up on the air. Like, I hate to be ho-hum about it, but T-Town went state again, I don't know.
Well, no, it is. And good program. Kent and Doug do a tremendous job down there. And then St. Anthony, who else did they play this week?
St. Anthony, that was their only game.
That was their only game this week. Okay.
Yeah, they got so looking ahead. Gosh,
it's about St. Elmo Browns or Windsor Stew Straws week.
They have got they've got South Central coming in Tuesday.
Okay.
And then that's it for them until Saturday when they go to the shootout at T-Town and play.
Brownstown used to be in there, but now that they've consolidated, I think that's now on the St. Elmo date.
Yeah, it's earlier in the week. So they got South Central this week as far as conference games, and then next week They'll
Oh, they
go
got the
down.
St. Anthony or T-Town shootout. Is that Saturday?
Yeah, the T-Town shootout Saturday. So St.
They
Anthony
play
will.
Troy Triad, which would be a good test for them.
Yep. Uh, yeah, and let's see. I know that also in that shootout, and by the way, you'll be able to listen to all those on the radio. All three of the games that involve local teams.
Yeah, I forgot who's Effingham playing.
Effingham
I just looked at
plays
it today.
Jerseyville.
That's right. They played Jerseyville. T-Town plays Centralia.
Yep. So I think in those are the last three games of the day, is my understanding.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we'll have those. But then there's also, we talked about this a little bit when we had Johnny Nieberge on last week, that they'll be having a shootout over at Altamont on Saturday too. The NTC CIC shootout, and that's
Didn't Altamont play Tuscola?
they do. They close it out by playing Tuscola. You got Neoga and Central A&M, CHBC and Macon Meridian, St. Elmo Brownstown and Sullivan, Diederich and Warrensburg Latham. North Clay plays Shelbyville, which probably be a pretty decent one. Windsor Stew plays Casey, which should be good.
Yeah.
And Tuscola and Altamont, which will be a great ball game. So yeah, that's a
So
real
you mentioned
nice.
Dietrich. You mentioned Dietrich in there. Their seventh graders are playing for a state championship next week.
Yeah, that was a nice one because yeah, you see the T-Towns and the St. Michael's, they make pretty good runs all the time. But it's nice to see a Diederich in there. And it was nice to see Brownstown on the girls' side, get a chance to do that. Those are big deals for small towns, very, very
And
nice.
who'd the Hearts have this week? They have no.
Yeah. So
Mattoon Thursday.
Effingham, that was it for them. They had Mattoon Thursday.
Because they were open Friday night because I saw two Hearts at the St. Anthony T-Town game.
Yeah, Mattoon. They went to Mattoon Thursday, got beat by a single point. That's a Mattoon team.
Was that in overtime or was that in regulation?
That was a regular. That was just 4 quarters ball, but it was
okay. Because they led every time I would see the scores. They led throughout.
Mattoon outscored them 15-9 in the fourth quarter and got a win. So, yeah, Effingham was ahead 5 at halftime and still 5 after 3 quarters and ended up losing it. That's a Mattoon team they beat twice earlier this year. Both of those teams are, having seasons that they're not going to, brag about too much. But that's to me. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, there are cliches out there about beating teams 3 times, but
it's tough.
But one you'd like to get, especially because really in the Apollo, like Effingham is, even with that loss and being 4-4 in the Apollo, Effingham is still in 3rd place in the conference right now because Mount Zion's 9-0, Lincoln's 8-1, and then you got a whole bunch of 4-4, 4-5, 4-6, and then of course Taylorville at the bottom hasn't won one yet. But yeah, it's really for the Apollo Conference on the boys' side. After Mount Zion and Lincoln, there's just a lot of seasons that will not go down in the all-time history books. Yeah, it's just one of those years. Mahomet and Charleston are both 9-14. Effingham's 10-16, and then Mattoon's won 7 games. Taylorville's won 3. And so, kind of a year to forget for the Apollo for the most part. And obviously, the thing about Mount Zion is that they're 24-2, and you expect them to be pretty good going forward.
But they're going to run into Springfield, Sacred Heart, Griffin somewhere in the postseason, and then that's going to be it.
Postseason, another thing, But as far as the Apollo goes, they're gonna be the team to be next year too, So, let's see what else you want to. I think we'll do. I'm just looking at other boys games that happened this week. See, there's a thing. Well, let's talk about Altamont for a minute. We had Altamont's coach on last week.
Altamont beat Teutopolis.
Yeah, they beat. First of all, they beat Flora real handily, and that was still without Mason Robinson. Beat him by 32 points on Tuesday, and then got him back for Friday. And Nokomis had him down for most of the game, was my understanding. And then Altamont turned a little deficit going in the fourth quarter into a 4-point win Friday night. So that's a good one. Nokomis is solid,
Yeah.
And did they've won like 15 games in a row now. I think that's.
Did the Coleman kid play? Because when I saw a list of people scoring, I didn't see his name listed.
I'm looking.
And he could have played and not scored. I understand that, but I saw Mason had like 9 points. I think Yarhouse and Elam were their top two scorers.
Coleman scored 7 in that game.
Okay, so then I just missed him when I was reading.
Yep, he scored 7. Yeah, Mason got 9, but they got 18 out of Yarhouse. Dylan Elam gave him 11. And Dylan Elam got into the starting lineup during that NTC championship for, I believe, the first time all year, and then scored 19 against Flora, scored 11 against Nokomis. Like, it's
another nice kid that you get minutes to play and he can score.
Yeah, I mean, for just the 1A field in the area, kind of with an eye toward the postseason, to look at that Altamont team and be like, oh, they're finding other scorers, are they? That's kind of. I mean, Dylan Elam was always their second or their third or fourth highest average scorer, but now they're starting to get double figure output out of him. You know what I'm saying? Like he's averaging 8.5 a game right now, but if you look at his last 6 games, it's more like 14, 15. So, that's
a lot of I think he's gained a lot of confidence during that time. So, good for them. Just another weapon that's, a bigger weapon than you thought. So that's good. And I hope they get the Phillips kid back because he was playing so well before Christmas.
And speaking of that fresh soft tournament, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and talk about fresh soft basketball a lot, but I did get a chance to see Altamont's team as well. And they've got some nice looking ball players on that team that, in a lot of programs would be JV starters. They'd be kids who maybe got, in a certain part of the game would get a little time, and there's just not place for them right now. It's just the way it is. That they got the Schultz kid at the end of their varsity bench. Like, he's an athlete. I mean, he's a good looking kid. So that just to name one. Just one that popped into my head. But there you go. That's a scary team come postseason, and we haven't been shy about saying that. Certainly. Rest of the NTC, I don't know. North Clay kind of got back on track. They beat Diedrich Friday night.
And then they beat Patoka yesterday?
Yeah, they beat Patoka yesterday by a very healthy sum.
They got Alney this week. Kudos for beefing up their schedule.
Yep. But they did get beat by Neoga on Tuesday, and
I saw that. Was that 20 points?
Yeah, 21. And I didn't go, but I watched it on NFHS. Just couldn't get to the gym in time for it to start, and at that point I was just like, I'll just put it on TV. Quentin Richards couldn't miss a shot, but Neoga.
I was told Neoga shot it exceptionally well.
They shot it well, and also, I think if I could log one criticism of North Clay, and I like North Clay's team, and I think that they're an athletic bunch. Defensively, they'll get a little over aggressive sometimes.
They like the block shots.
Yeah, they want to block shots. They'll leave their feet, and sometimes that can, if a team is disciplined and can get through the initial pressure, because you get those long athletic arms out on the perimeter, you turn over right across midcourt a lot. But if you can get through it, get that shot fake, and let it materialize, then all of a sudden you can swing it, you can get some open 3-pointers, you can get it to the, bounce a pass to somebody cutting. And Neoga played a great game. And listen, Neoga's having a tough year. They're 9-17, but I think it just goes to show that, like, this NTC is so good, and you got teams like that in there that could still, nobody wants to get Neoga in a regional. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to play that team because
right. Well, and just like we've talked about with North Clay, and I've done them on the radio once, when they are getting easy buckets because of their defense and that trapping at half court, and that creates problems. When that's working for them, that feeds the beast and the rest of the way they go. When they don't get the easy turnovers and you handle that initial trap and you attack, because now you generally have 4-on-3 attacking out of that trap. If you'll attack, you can do some things. And it kind of sounds like that's what Neoga did.
Yeah.
Now, was Logan playing the top? or was he not on the top still?
Yeah, that's a
You
great
don't
question
remember?
for somebody who was watching it a little more closely than I was, I
Okay.
guess.
Because he's really, really good in that spot. And I think, and when I saw him at the NTC, because of his ankle injury, he was not playing the top. So that makes that, I feel that makes that just a little less effective, even though Bose or Smith are very good up there.
One thing he did do, and maybe if he'd started doing it just a little sooner, they were down 19 points going into the fourth quarter, and he started going to the rim and drawing fouls and getting shots to go. And I know a parent told me later on in the week, they said if he'd started doing that 2 minutes earlier, we might have lost the game. But as it is, Neoga pulled it out.
Oh my God. Sorry, Dustin. I just got a text from our guest. We're going to postpone for a week.
Okay. We'll make it work. At least he's
Yes, we will. Trust me, he efforted. And he's very upset with technology. And he's going to go put some Ernest Tubbs and Merle Haggard 8-tracks in and relax.
8 tracks.
That may have just given our guest away right
there. Oh man. Well, whenever that happens, I'm looking forward to it. Let's just put it that way.
Just my text started a 4-letter word and then Zoom. So you can only guess how that started.
Yeah, I mean, I do understand, but
we'll get it fixed. We'll get him on next week.
All right.
Sorry, I couldn't keep a straight face reading it. That was good.
Where do we want to shift from here?
Let's go to the girls.
You want to talk about the T-Town girls? I don't know.
Let's brush the end of the season stuff and get right to postseason, because really that starts in earnest a week from yesterday.
Yeah, we can kind of just go through it real quick. I don't know if there's a whole lot to say about this week's games. That not a ton of like monumental.
I mean, what Neoga T-Town play is that?
Yeah, Neoga and T-Town play tomorrow night. Neoga is
that on the radio?
No, it's not. I'm gonna go. I feel like it's one I need to go see. There's
Let
other
me know
things
how that comes out.
Neoga's gonna be missing Haley Campbell still. She's gonna play again this year, it sounds like. They're very confident that they will get her back at some point this year. The exact timetable, they're not certain, but she had an MRI and they're confident that at some point she'll be able to get back on the knee and play games. And Neoga got a draw in their regional where I feel like they don't have to feel like, oh, we gotta,
we don't have to rush her back,
especially their first game.
They shouldn't need her till a regional championship.
Yeah, and they'll probably try.
What's that? A week from Thursday?
Friday. They're playing that one on a Friday night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Friday, so that gives her time.
So I wouldn't even be surprised, and I'm not giving away. I didn't ask for any strategy. Obviously I know the coaches and could ask them, but I didn't really get anything. I didn't ask them for any details, but my assumption would be that they'd probably try to see how if they get to the regional championship, which they should, and if they play Cowden, then kind of see how that game goes and see how much they want to use.
Well, here's the thing: you have something like that, you have a kid who can play, and you say, well, once you set in street clothes, we'll give another time. And then all of a sudden Richards gets in foul trouble a minute into the ball game.
Yeah.
So I had a kid, Jesse Mum didn't break his nose, but we were beating Martinsville by 20 some points in the second quarter, and he took an elbow to the nose, and they ended up taking him to the hospital. They left at halftime to go get it x-rayed. And all of a sudden we got in foul trouble. And Martinsville got it down to probably 11 or 12 late, middle, fourth quarter. And, I'd like the guy with a mask on his face to maybe get me a couple of rebounds there.
Yep, just take up some space. But
and it was a thing where it was in his best interest to go get looked at. I'm not questioning that at all. But at the time, it's like, hindsight's 20/20. Because he had to play the rest of the postseason with a mask on, which wasn't the easiest thing to do.
No, but yeah, that T-Town. So that'll probably. I don't, the T-Town Neoga matchup. I mean, it's still interesting to me, but it's gonna be tougher for Neoga. I mean, obviously,
It's still a barometer game, is what it
yeah.
is.
A couple of interesting things about that. And the T-Town girls, they beat Altamont this week, which, I mean, that's that when that game was scheduled, it was anticipated to be a little different kind of matchup than it ended up being, of course. And then they went and played Bloomington Central Catholic and lost that one on Friday night, which kind of, I don't know what that'll probably drop them a spot or two in the state rankings. Not that they care, but people.
What was the score of that game on Friday night? I never saw
it. 48-37. It was they didn't score very many points in that one.
See, I went up and watched them play that game once too, and they didn't play very well when they played it at Parkland. The girls looked, I don't know. Great game for them.
Kaylee Nieberge is 15 points shy of 1,000. And so pretty good chance given what she averages that she would do that tomorrow.
That Neoga, that's almost in her backyard.
Yeah. I was talking about this to somebody, and the thing is, I don't know how many girls at T-Town have ever scored 1,000, but it's probably not a real long list because it generally takes more than 2 varsity seasons to accomplish that. And there aren't a lot of players that necessarily get that opportunity to see the
statements there as you and that's why the boys have so few 1,000-point scorers, is because Bob Zruz and Mitch Custer and Brett Matty, maybe the only freshmen I know of to get starting or extended minutes as a freshman. Yeah. Just don't happen.
To accomplish it in a program like that, your junior and senior years are going to have to be pretty extraordinary, is what that boils down to.
Let's just say, to kind of put it in perspective, my last year at St. Anthony, Kenny Crawford's last year at T-Town, we're at the meeting in the NTC when you select the team. You used to go to Cumberland and play in that all-star game against the LIC, which was really kind of a big to-do back then because both conferences were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And a school had wanted to put on 2 kids, and their selling point was they're both 1,000-point scorers. And Kenny and I we always kind of sat in the back of the room, and Kenny goes, my 5th starter and your 5th starter could go to that school and both be 1,000-point scorers if they played from their freshman year to the varsity year. And I said,
I mean,
so it's that part of it is hard because when you're in a program, and again, when's the last time a kid from T-Town, a kid from St. Anthony averaged over 24 points a game? I mean, man, you got to go back to Brent Nieberge, to somebody who probably averaged. I can't remember the last T-Town kid who averaged 20 points a game.
Yeah, it's certainly a different thing there, and that's not to take anything away from the accomplishment. I mean, 1,000 points.
No, it's a great accomplishment to do it, but I just think it means. I mean, it's like if you said, "Hey, I hit 300 in my conference this year in baseball," and then you're in the let's say you're in the NTC and you hit 300. That's a little different because it's just your competition. What you're facing, it's not a level playing field. It's not you're not in a vacuum and everyone's is the same. I guess that's my biggest thing. It's a great accomplishment, and I give kids all the credit in the world when they do it.
I mean, for Kaylee, I think it's like I said, pretty big deal, for where she's at.
Yeah, I think it would be.
But they've got bigger designs, right? Like they've been a top 10 team in the state all year long. And we know that's just, their mind is always on getting back up to Bloomington. That's what they're thinking about.
No, that's their goal.
And they're 24-4, and I think they've, we'll get to the postseason path in a minute, but there's going to be some tests. There's going to be some tests.
Bloomington Central Catholic, Paris, Alton. I forget who their 4th loss was to.
It was
early.
Yeah, it was early on in the year. It was Highland, and then they beat that team later on.
Then they turned around and beat them. That's right.
Yep. They beat them in their own tournament. That's what it was. So yeah, yeah, I don't know. Let me look real quick at other games that happened this week just to see if there's anything that like needs to be talked about on the girls' side. Uh, St. Anthony is they won a couple conference games, so they have outright won the national trail 8-0.
Yeah,
They
ran the table. I saw
yeah
that.
they beat. I guess the one thing I will say is they beat Brownstown St. Elmo this week by 13, and that's a team that had them down by 9 going into the fourth quarter of the semifinals at the tournament. And so this time around, seems like
And they're in the regional together.
yeah, there's a pretty good chance they'll get another look at each other. But other than that, I'm not seeing anything real monumental here that we need to talk about. Effingham girls, they played Charleston on Tuesday, and obviously that was, bad. Charleston's just
And they play them
Charleston.
in the regional.
Yeah, and then they
I
played
know I'm spoiling your thunder.
and then they played Lincoln on Friday, and it was the Charleston score in inverse, right? Like Lincoln is 28-0, and they beat Effingham by 50 points.
Is the Froby girl a senior?
Yes. Yes, I think that's accurate. She's not going to be Effingham's problem next year, one way or another, though. So,
right. Well, I'm just trying to think. I saw her play, and it was when T-Town was in the conference during the COVID year, and she looked good, but she's obviously really, really worked on her game and gotten a lot better.
yeah, I mean they've beaten all comers. They play what seems to be a pretty aggressive non-conference schedule too. And the Apollo girls conference is good, right? Like I mean, Taylorville and Mount Zion, Mahomet, those are all teams that have already won 20 games or more. Yeah. And Lincoln just beats their pants off. I mean, they just beat everybody, right? Like they haven't really I don't know that they've had a lot of really competitive conference games. So let's talk. Let's get on to IHSA put out their regional pairings, and so we know who's going to play and when. I think we'll go in reverse order. We'll start with 3A and 2A since there's less to talk about there, and then we'll kind of close out with the 1A, which is still pretty bunched up. It's really only a couple of regionals you have to talk about as far as it goes. But Effingham's girls, they were a 2 seed in their subsectional, and so they'll get sent to the Mattoon regional where they will be the number 1 seed there, the top seed there. I'm going to share my screen. I think that would be the best way so we can look at it, right? If I can figure out which window I've got open. See that?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my goodness. You can probably hear the dogs going nuts too.
Well, I was going to tell you they were looking to get out of the door, and
yeah, I'm gonna get them out of the room real quick.
All right.
Go son. Yeah. We were taking chances having beagles in the room.
Hey, your split screen spoiling our surprise for next week's guest. There you
go. Yeah, so Effingham's going to play Charleston in the first game there at Mattoon, and they'll win that one. They've already played Charleston 3 times this year, and not to take anything away from Effingham season, but they've won 18 games this year. They've gotten to play Charleston 3 times. That's that'll inflate the win total a little bit.
Have they beat Mattoon twice?
Yeah, they beat Mattoon a couple times too. So
there's a third of their wins. Then they beat Olney. There's 6 of their 18 wins.
Yep. I don't know who will win between Mattoon and Olney. I think that probably will be a competitive game. But the thing that you got to keep in mind with Mattoon and Effingham, if they do face each other, is that they played pretty close both times.
Yeah, so, no, there's been close ball games.
Yeah, in fact, I could tell you, I could get up here and look and tell you that they went to Mattoon and won by 5 points back in early December, and then when they played just about a week and a half ago, they won a home game with Mattoon by 4 points. So, that's that could go any number of ways. So um now I'll go back to the screen share and I'll try to see. Now you just see the window, right? That's what
Yeah,
I should have
now
been
you're
doing
good.
in the first place. Okay, so let's go to 2A,
All right.
find where Teutopolis is.
They're at
Um,
Carmi.
yeah, this is all feeding into the Pana sectional, by the way. And I guess we should go back to Effingham and say that they're trying to get to the Centralia sectional, and they've got a pretty decent chance to do that. And if they did, they would most likely face that Highland team that we mentioned a
Yeah.
minute ago.
Well, they know where they can get a couple tapes on them.
Yep, that's for sure. So that's Highland Regional, Mattoon Regional winners would play in the first sectional semifinal there at Centralia. So that's going to be, you know, it'll go 0 to 60 real quick, getting into that level of play. But hey, you win a regional, you win a regional. You take nothing away from you. Yeah, T Town going down to Carmi White County. Boy, I didn't realize that this OPH team had to be a 2A school, but I guess that does make sense when you're combining.
IHOP is 2A, and they face the host school.
Yeah, but T Town, T Town should they'll play one of those two teams and they'll most likely win it. I've seen this Fairfield team actually.
T-Town played Fairfield this year, Whitey?
No, they did not.
I didn't know if they did or not.
No, they didn't. But Neoga played them. St. Anthony played them. Both of them beat Fairfield. So, I don't know that means
Maybe
anything.
for old time's sake, Mount Carmel could upset Fairfield.
Yeah, get another T-Town Mount Carmel game in the postseason a little earlier.
I don't think you would have a full house like you had the
No.
previous 4 meetings.
But if T-Town can get through that regional, and you got to feel pretty good about their chances to do such a thing, then you go up here and you look and see this Pana sectional. Winner of that regional plays the winner of the Warrensburg Latham regional, and here it is, and there's Pana. So that's who you're most likely, that's kind of
Pana or Tolono, I would say.
Yep. And T-Town played Pana this year, and got beat, right?
Paris beat T-Town.
Yeah, T-Town beat Pana. T-Town beat Pana by 12 on December 5th, beat them by 12, 48-36. So yeah, when you look at the idea that you're going to have like Paris on the other side of that sectional, you'd rather Paris was on the other side of that sectional, right? Like,
right. I mean, you've got potential for a Paris T-Town rematch in the finals again. I mean,
Paris is going to get either Robinson or Vandalia, in a
Robinson beat Paris, didn't they? A week or so ago.
Was that the one?
I thought they did.
The beauty of the internet is that we can find answers to these questions.
We don't rely on an old man's memory.
Yeah, I mean it's
sketchy at best.
Of course, you gotta have to kind of scroll through a little bit, and I don't know. Paris beat Robinson by 20 points in the LIC tournament championship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to see. Paris lost to Effingham. I don't know that they did they lost to a Terre Haute team, I think.
Okay, maybe I misread something.
Yeah, because they've only lost 3 games. But at any rate,
okay,
we're not in the knowing Paris business, so I don't feel too bad about that one. I will just say that there's a decent chance that you get T-Town and Paris playing each other again, and it was a close game when they played before.
Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't a close game. Paris beat them by 16. I'm sorry. Memory.
That was early.
Yeah, it was on December 19th. So.
T-Town's a different club after Christmas.
I'll be looking forward to that one though. That'd be fun.
No, I would too. I enjoy it, and you know, at some point postseason, I get to do some of these games because usually you're doing them all over the country. So,
Yep, it's we get spread out pretty quick. So
all right, let's go to
okay,
Class
so
1A.
1A. I'm gonna share the screen one last time here.
All right,
And
here you
so
go.
here you see that it's all under the St. Anthony Super Sectional heading.
And I like that. That's a great place to host.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I went to watching yoga play in the Super Sectional down at Wayne City last year, and
Hey, make those Southern teams drive for God's sakes. They never have to.
it was a nice gym, but it wasn't like it didn't have a ton of seating in it, And if they can host a super, then by God, St. Anthony can host a super no problem. So the two regionals that we care about are North Clay and Neoga. We'll go down to Neoga first. Neoga got the number one seed in that subsectional. It was apparently very close between them and St. Anthony, like very, very close. But Neoga did
But
get it.
Neoga was still going to be at Neoga, so it didn't matter if they're 1 or 2.
Yeah, but like as far as I guess who you play, it matters, right? Like
Not really. No, because let's see, where's St. Anthony's at where?
North Clay up
Let
here.
me see the North Clay.
Yep.
Yeah, no, you would. Okay, so, and who's the 4? Salt Fork? No, Salt Fork was going to go north. No, Salt Fork wasn't going to drive to North Clay and Brownstown to the Salt Fork or to Neoga. So no, they were going to go there regardless.
Um,
They'll put 1 and 3 together. The IHSA will not do 1-4 automatic.
I really got it. I think it would be an interesting conversation to get someone from IHSA to talk to us about exactly what the process is after they seed the subsectionals, because I looked at how they did it last year with the subsectional seedings and then how they broke them out, and it was a lot different than this. So there's some other factors at play, and I just don't know what they
When
are.
I went to an AD meeting, they showed us at there. Kirk Gibson talked to us a little bit about it, and yeah, I mean, and that's something possibly when the season's over, we could maybe get Kurt or Matt Trohall or Sammy Knox, one of those guys on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they divulge everything, but maybe they
Well,
give.
they'll tell you the process. I don't think it's a top secret process.
Anyway, at the Neoga Regional, you got Cowden Herrick there. They're the 4 seed in the sub. And if you look at the other teams involved, it's, seems pretty, unless something really strange happens, you're going to get.
You should have a
Neoga and Cowden in the championship there.
Yeah, because you have 1, 4, 8.
Yeah.
And so
and Neoga played that 8 and
3, 5, 6, and 7 are at the other side.
Yep. So Neoga and Cowden's an interesting matchup because of what we talked about before with the Campbell girl and not knowing exactly where she's at. But Neoga played Cowden not that long ago, and it was a close game for a while, but Neoga really pulled away in the second half. And Cowden has lost. I don't know. They're sitting at I'm gonna look real quick, 16-10 for the year. So, they're a good team. They've got an outstanding player, of course, in the Heckert girl. I don't know that she's ever been 100% this year either. Like from the sound of it, she's not playing at full health. But you got that. So either Neoga or Cowden probably comes out of that one, and Neoga would be the favorite. And then up here at North Clay at the Louisville site, St. Anthony is going to play either Diederich or South Central in its first game. And those are teams.
It's not an easy first game.
No, it's not easy. They've handled those teams. Diederich seems to be kind of, if you look at Diederich, and they've played some games in the end of the season against teams that they played earlier in the year, and the scores have widened out a little bit, like they're getting beat by more. So they seem like they're kind of dropping off a little bit. South Central, for a team that's 1-7 in conference play, they have, I mean, they've got some players there. I think they're capable of making things interesting, but obviously St. Anthony is, St. Anthony's a state ranked team. So is Neoga. They're very good. So, it's more about, are you going to get tested or not? And then Brownstown, St. Elmo is going to play either Altamont or North Clay. Most likely North Clay, I would think. And Brownstown and North Clay played a couple of really tight games recently. They played at the NTC tournament, and it was North Clay getting a 6-point win in the third place game. And then they turned around and played 2 days later in a regular season game, and Brownstown got them by 10. So, but then Brownstown gave St. Anthony a really good game in that NTC tournament, and then just this week got beat by 13. So,
Right.
I think obviously St. Anthony's got to feel good about where they're at.
Well, here's the thing. You got to, I mean, they're not going to put you and seeds 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 in one, and then all the good. This isn't the Charleston Holiday Tournament.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to beat people to get there. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have Edwardsville and Charleston in one bracket and everybody else worth the darn in the other. So you don't have that.
So let's talk about having to beat people, because then, like, if Neoga and St. Anthony can both get to a sectional, which is at Casey, then you look at the regional or the sectional matchups, and it's going to be the Neoga regional and the Arcola regional. And I go down to this Arcola regional, and the top team there is Hume Shiloh. That's Tri-County. They call them Hume Shiloh on here, but it's Tri-County. They're more colloquially known. And that's a team that Neoga beat pretty handily earlier in the year. They've still got a game with
this show, Whitey.
What's that?
That was an awfully big word for this show.
Well, I bust out the $5 words every now and again. The Tri-County Arcola comes out of that one. Neoga plays Arcola here before the season ends. But to me, that's a favorable matchup for Neoga, because if they had to play the winner of this Salt Fork regional, then you got this Tuscola team, which is also, highly regarded in 1A.
Didn't Neoga play Tuscola earlier in the year?
Yeah, and they lost in the up at the Monticello tournament.
Yeah, Christmas tournament. Okay.
Yep. So, and that was they didn't get blown out or anything like that. They had opportunities to get a win, but they didn't play very well. And it wasn't just because they didn't play very well, it's because Tuscola made them play not very well. So, you don't want to face Tuscola. And so St. Anthony is going to, if St. Anthony gets out, then most likely they're going to play Tuscola in the other semifinal there. So for Neoga, that's a break, right? Like getting those two on the other side of things and having to duke it out with each other. And you get to play either Tri-County or Arcola. And Tri-County is a good program, but Tri-County was better last year. And so to me, obviously anything can happen, but for Neoga, I think they have to be happy with the way it shook out. That's all I'll say. They might get tested. I don't know. I don't know if I want to say that or not. I was getting ready to say they might get tested more by Cowden.
Don't jinx it, Whitey. Don't jinx it.
But I don't know, because obviously for 3 quarters in the super sectional last year, it looked like they were going to get handled pretty easily, and then they ended up going to state. So this time of year, you don't want to put all your chickens in the one basket.
That's when you had your Peter. That's when you had your Peter Brady moment on the radio.
Yeah, I did, but it was pretty exciting. I don't feel too bad about it. But yeah, that's going to be a good sectional at Casey. And then, talking about that super sectional from last year, you're going to have, that
Norville's probably the best team in the South.
They certainly got a number 1 seed in their sub. I know that they had to play Christopher in the sectionals last year, and that was a really tight ball game. And It seems like, and as I recall, Christopher's got a lot of kids back too. So those are two teams to think about. I see Edwards County has got a number one seed in their subsectional, which I don't. I'm gonna have to ask if I know anybody. I don't think anybody locally has played Edwards County. I don't think they have come up on anybody's local schedule. I would have remembered it. So that's interesting because they're not that far away. You would have thought that somebody would have ended up playing them, but I am fairly certain that we don't have a local team that ran into them this year. So they must be good. But that's going to be a good, should be a pretty solid super sectional matchup at St. Anthony, no matter who's in it. But obviously, it would be pretty cool for the host school if they could make their way into it and be playing that on their home floor.
Yep.
That would be a good feeling. And I would hope that they'd get some nice support from the home fans if that was the case. Get a lot of people in there, get that full. We've seen boys games there on a big scale. That you've had standing room only, and I'd like to get a nice crowd in for girls games. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But there you go. All the NTC schools are in those two regionals that we talked about.
Yep.
Diedrich, South Central, Altamont, North Clay, St. Anthony, and Brownstown are all going to North Clay. And then at Neoga, you got Winter Stew, Cowden Herrick, and Neoga. That's that.
All right. Now let's talk about important stuff.
Okay.
Yesterday, I know you saw Indiana beat the number one team in the country.
They did.
The Purdue Boilermakers.
They did.
Their bitter rival.
They are.
And Purdue did the same thing they did last year. They came out and turned the ball over and were a little intimidated to start the game. And Matt Painter said they had to get over that. They didn't. And thank God Indiana got the lead up to as many as 16 points because they needed all of them down the stretch. Zach Edey's I've watched him play a couple times. He's not Sean Bradley. He's a nice player.
Yeah, he's freakishly tall, but also not. Yeah, he's not a beanpole. So,
and he earned a lot. I give him a lot of kudos. I saw it on Twitter. They were interviewing one of the freshman guards for Purdue after the game, and the press asked, what were you thinking when you threw it away with a minute 30 to go or whatever, down 2? And the kid was kind of giving the answer, and Zach Edey, because he had 3 players at the table, he reaches over and grabs the mic and then has to bend down, and it looks like he's wearing a Sherpa's coat. I don't know what he was wearing. And I've never heard him talk before, and he's got this kind of a deep voice, and he just says, I turned it over 3 times in the first half, 3 or 4 times, and everyone on our team had trips we'd like to have back. That one trip did not cost our game. And then he just handed the mic back to the sole freshman, which that's leadership, man. That's awesome to see him do that. I will say this, though. Dick Vitale doing the game, obviously he's not the same Dickie V of 30 years ago, but, he had moments where he would have troubles. He'd get hoarse.
Yeah.
And, because he'd get excited. So he had moments in that game. They did a little tribute to him on the scoreboard. He got a little emotional over that, which was cool. They stormed the court, and I know I've read pros and cons, but these kids don't remember Indiana basketball because someone I saw say, come on, you're Indiana. Well, these kids don't remember Indiana.
Okay? Yeah, that last banner was like 40 years ago, man.
87 was your last banner. And you were really, really good in the Tom Crean years. But you know what? You had some not so good teams. You missed some tournaments in there. So, and it's Purdue and they're number 1 in the country. Now, I think Indiana was a 1.5 favorite. So the Big Ten is a cluster again because I think you got Purdue with 2 losses. Indiana's got a monster game Tuesday against Rutgers at home. They have to win that game, or they're not going to be in that bye. They'll have to play. You don't want to play that first game in the Big Ten tournament, because then you play like 12 games in 4 days. Those people have it rough.
Yeah.
But Illinois got to Iowa, and the poor Orange Crush couldn't get in, and they got beat there. And Iowa's either really good or not very good.
Well, I was telling you this when we were talking before we started recording. Yeah, I saw somebody point out that Iowa's all their losses have been there's a line right in the Big Ten standings, and all the losses have been to teams below that line, and all the wins have been to teams above that line. So
Iowa's not going to beat Purdue. I'll just tell you that right now.
They've beaten the best teams they've played, and they've
who beat Purdue? Purdue's only losses to who?
You're asking me?
You don't have them on your NTC page? Purdue's not on there?
No.
You're quicker than me.
Yeah, if you just kill time for a minute, I'll figure it out. They're one Big Ten loss. Rutgers.
Okay. Rutgers, I would not want to meet Rutgers in an alley. I'll just say that. They're tough.
Rutgers
that team, I'm afraid they'd just beat your ass.
Rutgers beat them by a point. But then you look at Purdue, I mean, they've won a number of Big Ten games really close. They only beat Ohio State by 2. They beat Michigan State by 1. They beat Maryland by 3. They beat Michigan by 5.
Our Michigan set Jet Howard got sat on the bench for a little bit the other day, and they went on like a 17-0 run, come back and won a game.
Yeah, Iowa they play this week. They play on Thursday.
And Indiana has to go back to Purdue on the 25th, and that probably won't be pretty. It'll be a 16-point Purdue lead in the first half. And
Illinois plays Purdue in the last game of the season, last regular season game.
And they only play them once, right?
That's correct.
How do you get Purdue once? Come on. That's weak.
I don't make the schedules. Don't complain to me.
Do they play like Minnesota 4 times? Do they get them 4 times on the schedule? Man.
Don't whine to me.
I know.
I don't want to hear it. Speaking of college basketball, you wanna take a look at this? We were talking about this too.
I never saw it. I just saw a still picture.
I pulled this up. Now I'm gonna kill the volume on this video because the announcer gets a little excited. So I'm gonna press play on this video.
All right.
And then
where does it happen? Which side of the floor? The close side or the far side?
From the benches?
I mean, is it right here by the score where I see the score? Is it on the other side?
Yeah, you'll see. It's gonna be hard to miss, okay?
Okay.
Gets the screen, Lions switch.
All right, so watch this guy right here. You see that?
Yeah, I saw it. And the officials never saw it, or did they see it?
I think that near official right here, he did see it.
So who's the player, Whitey?
Number 10 for Eastern. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that I know their guys by Kenyon Hodges. He's a junior.
I don't know him.
That's not a banner moment.
And I'm sure those kids were all over him saying things they shouldn't. You just you can't do that.
Well, there's not even there's not even any history there. They were at Lindenwood, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like it was Purdue in Indiana. No, it was. I don't know. But here's the thing. We had a incident at our Christmas tournament with an assistant coach and an official. And the official said some things in a manner he shouldn't have said, to be honest, from what I was told by one of my committee people.
Yeah.
Who was within earshot. Then when you go on this, hey, I'm a man, I have a family. You don't talk to me that way. Okay, I don't know that I would ever utter that line, regardless of what you said to me. I mean, it's that's the part I don't understand, and I don't know if it's
And
I mean, people give me grief all the time. I don't lose my cool.
let's talk about something.
Privately, I may.
Let's talk about something Eastern related that
I
is
know they're
good.
women undefeated in the conference. That's awesome.
Look at that. Yeah. 12-0 in OVC play. That's the longest winning streak to start conference play that they've ever had. 19-3 overall. But you posed a question to me, and I don't have a good answer to it because I just don't know, and I don't follow it close enough to know. But you said if they don't win the OVC tournament, will they get a bid in the NCAA's? And I don't know.
Because I've seen women's bracketology and they're in the tournament. But again, those mid-major conferences sometimes get shunned. And, what's UConn like? Got 4 people out for the season for their top. They've lost so many people this year. Okay. Did you see where Duke and Florida State played half a game with a boys' ball?
Yeah, they played it with a men's ball.
And they're blaming girls basketball not getting respect. No.
Yeah,
I asked my daughter. My daughter played high school basketball for 2 years. I said, if you had a boys' ball, would you know it? Yeah.
Yeah, and they said that it did. Like people were complaining about it, so I guess I don't want to.
Then why didn't they stop the game and check it?
Not everything. Yeah, I mean, listen, people who know me well know that like on issues like that, I'm kind of a tree hugger sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll take the social issues
I'm sorry.
and embrace them. But sometimes you try to make a bigger thing out of something than it is.
Exactly.
And I think that's just a case of like some people having their heads up their asses more than anything.
Trying to turn this into a Title IX equity thing.
Yeah. I mean,
and then someone said, well,
there's plenty of conversations like that need to happen. But this is just a case of elite official apparently not being very careful or maybe not even doing what they're supposed to do when they test the ball before
and
the game.
Wasn't the game at Duke?
Yeah. Like I don't just
now as a head coach, when I was at St. Anthony, who brought the game ball to the table? I did. Because it was in a drawer in a filing cabinet. It didn't get touched by anybody. Yeah. So when you're the home school, who are you blaming?
Yeah.
She's blaming somebody. She was a great player in her day. Who's she blaming?
I think if I really had to dig into that one too much, I would just say
my head would hurt. Why? Because I'd be like, come on now.
They lost and she was upset about it. I think that's probably the biggest thing. The other team played with that ball too, though. So,
and it happened in a boys' game once where they used a girls' ball for part of a half. Tell me they didn't notice. My gosh.
I think that might be more I'm not sure. That probably.
Well, when every player on the team does a Trace Jackson, just catches it one-handed and starts doing this looking for passes, then the ball's too small. So I don't know. It's just, come on. Let's not blame everyone for everything.
Not every molehill needs to be made a mountain out of. How's that?
I'm more concerned about our guest. I have to tutor him on Zoom this week.
Yeah, you two need to have a little. Maybe you might just need to. I don't know where he's living these days, but you might need to just make a road trip and get him.
Oh hell, he just lives on the other side of the creek, for gosh sakes.
Okay, well then.
Here, I will read you his exact text, minus one word. Blank Zoom. Let's meet sometime and you can help me get it installed. I'm going to put an 8-track tape in my player and play some Ernest Tubb and Merle Haggard. That's about as close as I get to being high-tech redneck. Sorry about this. Is there a technology special needs class for 73-year-olds? If so, sign me up now. Oh my God.
Well, listen. We've run into an issue or two, but we're 60 some episodes in and we've been able to get most people.
I should have checked earlier in the week. I won't go Carol Lawson. I'll take this one.
If we need to do a test run sometime this week, we could do that just to make sure.
I can open it up on my laptop and he can open it up on his, and we don't have to be recording. We just need to make sure it works.
Yeah. All right. Well,
no, I'm not. No, I'll take the onus. I'll take the onus on this one. You know, I was asked Whitey by a listener, I know, and they were surprised we haven't been doing Adam ones.
Yeah, we kind of got away
it just kind of we got away from it, and it was hard to start again.
It's yeah, it's a little hard to decide sometimes too. Like
right, and I hate giving it to the same kids over and over and over.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe at some point we'll resurrect it. We'll have to see. I don't know. I love the whole concept, but and we our sponsors were on board. I just got to go pick up gift cards to give them away. We should.
I've been giving one of those sponsors a lot of business lately.
Yeah.
I had some chicken parm last night. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to finish it, but I was dutiful and I got it all. I ate every last bit of it because, you know, what are leftovers?
Usually leftovers are Mikey's lunch the next day.
Well, I think we've probably run out of stuff to talk about. And see, if we'd had a guest on and then done all this talk.
Oh my gosh, we'd be here till my bedtime.
Yeah, so maybe
and trust me, guys. This guest has a lot of stories.
Well, then we'll get it on. We'll get it figured out, and it'll be good. All right.
I'm looking forward to it because I was told he was at the T-Town St. Anthony game, and he was sitting next to my wife and daughter. I think one row in front of him, and some fans were screaming about an over and back call that should have been called. And I think his quote to my daughter was, "I hate stupid people who don't know the goddamn rules."
Yeah, well.
And I may have even embellished that quote just a little to clean it up a little bit.
Well, we've teased this a lot. I think astute listeners are probably figuring this one out, but
my daughter and my wife, as soon as I get upstairs, are going to ask me how we did, and I'll have to tell them I got away.
This just kind of builds it up. This is kind of.
I know, that's good. That's good.
All right, but we've talked enough.
That's good.
All right. Till next week.
See you, bud.
Later.